Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name's Tracy. In today's video, I am going to be showing you how I made this whimsical cats in space video using Simon Hurley's new Space Friends. Let's go ahead and jump in. Welcome, welcome. Today I'm going to be working with Simon Hurley's new Space Friends stamp set, and I'll be working with the cats because, well, cats. And I'm going to select 3 of the cats, and I'll probably do the little asteroid too. And I'm going to start out by just stamping these out. So this is brand new from Simon Hurley. Haven't even opened it yet. Super excited to work with it. I'll pull out the stamps, and I'm going to be stamping on some alcohol marker friendly paper. And I will show the coloring here a bit, but I have it highly sped up because, I'm kind of slow. I guess I'm not that slow, but I don't need you to watch coloring for an hour on just simple coloring. Now, if we were doing some extravagant coloring, then I would take my time and show you how it's done. Best I could anyway. So I'm going to lay my paper in my mini MISTI and select my stamps. And there's all kinds of fun stamps in here. This thing can just really, you could do so many different things with it. Let's get this cat. Let's see here, a little curled up cat. And we'll get this cat. And listen, dogs aren't ignored in this, so there's dogs on here too. But y'all know me. I'm a cat girl. Let's get this little flying asteroid here. And I'm not sure if I'll put that on the front of the card or the inside or if I'll even use it, but I'm going to stamp it out. Let's see if there's anything else here I want to stamp out. I'm going to stamp out the little stars. They're so cute. I know there's a third one. There it is. All right. Here we go. Let's get that unstuck to my finger. Move these out of the way. Then I'll just close the lid to my mini MISTI. Make sure they're all stuck to it. And I'm just going to kind of wipe them with my fingers a little bit to kind of condition them for the first use. I'm not rubbing hard or anything. I'm just kind of getting my finger guck on there. And I like to use the ink on 3 for alcohol marker coloring. Use what you have, use what you use, I should say, and color them with however you want to color them. Pencils, regular markers, whatever you have, go for it. I'm just going to make sure that they're good and stamped down here, and I'll probably take a couple of stampings just to get it as dark as I want it. I need to get a re-inker for this thing. It's getting low. I've had it for a long time. Or switch to my Memento or my Gina K. Any one of them will work. The Gina K Amalgam ink is also a good ink for alcohol markers. Let's see, are these dark enough? Yeah, one more time. And that's kind of usually me, 3rd time's a charm. Now the trick here, friends, is when you're using alcohol marker friendly paper, it's a little bit on the slick side, so you want to give your ink a chance to dry, particularly if you're going to use light colors. So, and you'll see in this demo what happens if your ink didn't completely dry. And even sometimes if it does, it will smear a little bit, so you have to be careful. So we'll go ahead and pull this out, and I'm going to grab my Ohuhu markers, and I'm going to color, this cat is going to be, he's going to be a gray cat, kind of like my Beep Beep. So I'm just going to fill him in completely with the lightest gray. I'm trying to miss the feet because I'm going to want to do those little foot pads in pink. And I'll just completely fill him in with it. And I guess this one's happening in real time, but the rest of them I speed up. Okay, I've got his little arm, and now I'll go in his little face. And I'm using cool grays for this. You could use a warm gray too. And Beep Beep actually has some yellows in him too. He's kind of Most of the gray and white cats have a little bit of color in them too. Okay, that's filled in. Now I'll take my next darker color and I'll start to create shadows. And let's use the brush end here. It just gives a softer line. I'm just adding a shadow at the back where his back is curved and around where his helmet is and around where his arm meets his body, a little bit down towards his underbelly, and just in the curved spaces, just to give them a little bit of depth and dimension, just a little bit around the face. Leaving the frontmost of the face the lighter color and then going darker as we go back. And you can't really see it because my hand's in the way, but that's what I'm doing. And just add some little extra marks here. Okay, and then I'm going to come in with the darkest gray and just make very thin lines for more shading. And I'm doing these while my ink is wet still, or my marker ink is wet still, so that it blends easier. But you can blend them out after they've dried. It just takes a little bit more time. So just going in, back in where those curves are, not a bunch. And then I'll come back in with the lightest and then blend all three of the grays out. Okay. And this will dry back some, so when you lay it down, it looks pretty dark, but it dries back much lighter. You could have fun. You could make these rainbow cats or, you know, whatever color your cats are. But this one obviously is a tiger stripe type cat, a little tabby. I'm just coming in and filling in, blending out the colors that are already there, or the lack of colors, I should say, since we're doing gray. Okay. Good, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to come in with a very the lightest gray there is in the Ohuhu line, which is a CG200. I'm going to color in the helmet because it's not completely white. I'll leave the white spaces that are there and just color around that. And this is a super light gray. Okay, there's that kitty done. Super simple. This kitty here, he's not going to get much coloring at all because he's a tuxie. So I'm just going to come in and do some shading where I feel like it needs to be. So I've got the very light color again. And I'm just going to do some shading around his face. And I'm not going to color in his whole face, but I will do the helmet the same way with this very light gray. I'm going to leave his face white though, just to make sure it's accentuated there. And just add in any shadows with this just slightly darker gray. Okay, there's this kitty, just about done. Just kind of going around his body with the super light color just to add a little bit of dimension. You can simple color these. You don't have to worry about dimension. Just you can do flat color. It doesn't matter. They're still going to be adorable. But I do like to practice, and for me it is practice. I don't color that often, so when I do, I want to practice. All right, so last kitty, he's going to be an orange tabby, because who doesn't love an orange kitty? So here's where I speed this up, and I'm grabbing my lightest orange, which is kind of a brownish orange. So it's not like a in-your-face orange. And I'm just filling in and then filling in the shadows with the darker and darker colors, the same way I did with the grays, only I'm doing it with this orange. And I'm leaving some white spots, like around the belly and stuff. I'm leaving light spots. And you probably can't see it on camera, but the ink has smeared. And so now I'm going to color in the asteroid there. The ink has smeared around his face, and I'm going to show you how I fix that with the color pencils. So it's always good to have handy color pencils. Let me just put some pink on the cheeks and on the little pads of the feet. And here I'm just going to kind of darken down everything on the orange kitty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to match up colors here with my Prismacolors, and I'm trying to find the right color. And I'm just kind of coloring over where the black smeared, trying to disguise and mask that best I can and blend in. So it's all blended in, and I use the coordinating die cuts to cut them out, and then I cut myself some little triangles. And this is a nesting set, so these ones are bigger than the colored ones that I did. And I chose my colors based on my background paper, which you'll see later. And I'm actually using a pattern paper, a beautiful pattern paper, for my background, just to save me some work. So I'm going to grab, again, the Silver Lining brand new Astro Paste, and I'm just going to use my finger and color the outside edges of these triangles in. And it doesn't look so great while it's wet, but when it's dry, you'll see. It's fabulous. So your finger tool is your friend with this. And I don't need it in the middle because those color triangles are going to cover it. Let me just grab something to kind of hold this down while I work with it. And I'm putting a sort of a thickish application on here, because I want these to be a really bright silver. And I'll do the second and third ones exactly the same. I had a lot of fun playing with this paste, and I did some in my little mini junk journal. Nobody knew when I posted it what was on there, but I'm making like nighttime and space scenes on it, and I used the refined copper on a deep dark blue. It was so gorgeous. And it adds all kinds of texture. So you'll see, though, this texture, the way it's looking now, is not how it's going to look when it's dry and I get my other pieces on there. I'm just going to take and lightly spread some on this part of this little asteroid. Maybe a little bit on the flames. Just for fun and added sparkle. So I'm going to wash my hands, wait for those to dry, and then I'll be back so we can complete this thing. Let's make sure I've got my lid on. Okay, those are all dry and ready to go. So I'm going to pop up my little colored pieces with just some round foam dots, because I don't need, this is a low profile foam, and I really need to use this one up so I can buy some more. I don't want them popped up super high, but I want them just a little popped up. And look at how that turns out because of the silver. They just look like little space junk, I guess. I don't know. The cats couldn't... I felt like with the busy background that I'm using, they needed some sort of anchoring. So this is why I decided to make these little sort of abstract little landing spots for them. Let's get a foam dot on this last one. Okay. And we'll get this little green one on. And now we're ready to assemble our card. So what I have is this gorgeous paper, and so you know what, feel free to use pattern paper that you bought and are hoarding. And trust me, I've been hoarding this one for a bit because it's so pretty. But it's going to make the coolest backdrop for these little space cats. So I'm going to trim this down, and I'm going to trim it to 5.5 by 4.25. So I want it to cover the whole front of the card. And that's typically, I'll leave a border, but in this case, I want the whole front of the card filled up. And I'm just going to glue that down with some liquid glue. See here if I can get my pin out and make sure my glue... Uh-oh, I hate covering that side. And we could have done that side too. Didn't really matter. Either side would have been really cool. Now, I showed you in another video how to make a backdrop. And so you could certainly do that, do this particular design on a handmade background. Okay, we'll just make sure that's good and stuck. And I wanted it in part because there's a sun in it, and a lot of planets and stars and color, just, you know, all the things, all the things. Now I'll start to lay down my little kitties the way I want them. I think we're going to start with the flying kitty. He's having fun in space. I'm just going to kind of lay these down to get an idea for the layout, and I'm looking for my shapes to not be symmetrical with each other, if that makes sense. I want them to be all different. There we go. I'm happy with that. So I've followed the rule of thirds here. So I'm going to glue this kitty down to the first shape. And again, I'm doing this video is a little bit longer, but I am doing this mostly all in real time. So typically I will speed these parts up just to get you through them, but you could always speed up the video if you wanted to. I do. So I watch all my videos in 2x speed. So there's that. And my husband, he'll say to me, how can you even understand what they're saying? I'm like, I'm used to it. I definitely speed my own up when I have to watch them because I'm not, like most of us, I'm not crazy about my own voice. And that's by design, apparently. There's a whole science behind it, why people either don't recognize or don't like their own voice. And it's just about the way you hear it when it's coming out of your mouth versus how it really sounds or something like that. I don't know. Some weird science. Anyway, I digress. Let's get this third shape on here. And then all we need to do is get our kitty on there and get our sentiment. And let's get him going. I want him going this way, so I'm going to need to scoot my little triangle a little bit. And that's the reason why I used my PVA glue, because it gives me a little wiggle room. And this is kind of a shiny paper, so it's got a smooth surface. So glue doesn't dry as fast. And then I'm going to glue down the little stars that I made. And I just colored them simple yellow. No massive shading or anything crazy going on with that. It just doesn't need it. Get this star. Let me see. I think I want the smallest star on the flying kitty. We'll get this bigger star. And we'll get a star down here with that tiny star. Now I'm going to pick up the asteroid because at first I'm thinking I want to put it on the front of the card. And I might have fussy cut it. If I was going to, I would have fussy cut it and cut the white out. But I decide I don't want the asteroid on the front of the card. So later on we'll put it on the inside of the card. Now we need to do our sentiment. And I left a space down there in the bottom right for the sentiment. So I'm going to select a sentiment here. And I'm going to do "You Are Out of This World Amazing." And what I'll be doing is stamping that on some black paper from Ranger, the Tim Holtz Distress Black, Heavy Black, all those words. I'll link everything down below. So I decided to put the asteroid on the inside, and I really like it on the inside, so there's that. Let's go ahead and get this sentiment stamped out. Okay, grab the sentiment, I'll grab my mini Misty. And then I have a scrap of black here. Let's see, where are you, little scrap? I save every little bit of this black paper because it's so precious. And then you can stamp it upside down if you want. It doesn't matter because I'm going to fussy cut it out, but I don't know. For some reason, I need to have it straight. I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to go pretty heavy on it because this paper has kind of a velvety texture. So the anti-static powder, it looks like it sticks really bad, but it cleans off, so no worries. And then I have this neon yellow embossing powder from Ranger, because I want to, stick with kind of the color scheme that's going on there. I could have done white, but I felt like the neon would be really great. So I'm going to use some Versamark. At first I stamped it with the wrong ink because it was sitting in front of me. And I'm going to stamp it a couple of times, but I'm not going to press down too hard. Not going to squish. I'm just going to make sure that I can see all of the words there. Then I'll grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'll just go ahead and pour my neon yellow embossing powder on. I rarely ever use these neons, but when it comes to a space scene, neon is just called for, that's all. So I think I have a neon green too, but it doesn't show up as good on the black paper, and I wanted this to really stand out. So we'll go ahead and clean up the embossing powder mess, and then I'll go ahead and heat emboss this. Make sure my heat tool is hot. This paper embosses really well. You just want to make sure you get plenty of anti-static powder on it, so you don't have any strays sticking out, because they'll stand out. If you're using a white or a neon, they'll stand out against the black. And I'm going to cool it down completely before I do move on to the next step, because I want to wipe that off. And I'm going to use just a rag I just sprayed a little bit of water on my rag, and that I'm kind of doing that off camera so I don't get everything wet. And I'm just going to wipe it with the rag, and that's that. It's not super wet, it's just a little bit damp, and it cleans off, and look at how that just pops. So I'll go ahead and fussy cut the sentiment, and I'm going to kind of bubble cut around it. Let's see here. Grab my scissors, and I like to rough cut it first so that I don't have to fight with that excess over there. And then we'll just kind of cut around this, and I'll just kind of turn the edges, turn the paper into a smooth curve as I go. Doesn't have to be perfect. You could also cut it into a rectangle. Doesn't really matter, and use it like a label. But I like the look of this. There, that's how easy that was to cut out. And I'm going to pop that up right here in that open space that I left. I will use some foam strips here. Find the sticky. I like working with these foam strips. You guys know that already. Okay, get a last one on there. I want a lot of good support because this is a higher profile. It's about a 3mm foam strips. And I'm going to add some liquid glue. And just keep in mind, when you use liquid glue with foam on a shiny or a slick paper surface, that it's going to need some dry time. And I do like to use my tweezers to kind of lay this down rather than my hand, because then my hand gets in my way and I can't see what I'm doing. And I'll just scooch this around and adjust it so it's straight. I want this straight. I don't care if the triangles are straight, but I wanted that. And here it is up close. Isn't that so stinking adorable? And that Astro paste just made those little landing spots pop. Okay, let's get you in close up here so you can get a closer look. If you like this video, please pop me a thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed already, consider subscribing to my channel. I will have all the products I use listed in the description box below. I thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today while I made our spacey little card, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Take care. Bye-bye.